There's something deeply wrong with the creature in routine. Not just the way it moves, not the way it screams, not even the way it seems obsessed with the corpse of Entity B. No. What bothers me is that it keeps appearing where it logically shouldn't be. Because the more I replay routine, the more I start to wonder if the monster hunting us through the lunar station was never alone to begin with. Welcome back, Night Stalkers. Now before we dive into this theory, let's quickly recap the canon events of Routine. If you want the full breakdown of the story, lore, and hidden details, check out my complete story explained video after this one. But for now, here's the short version. Deep beneath the lunar research station, scientists discovered a strange alien fungal organism capable of mutating organic matter into humanoid entities. According to the logs, only two entities were ever officially documented: Entity A and Entity B. Entity B was found dead after choking on an apple. Entity A didn't take it very well. During the second half of Routine, the engineer is relentlessly stalked through the station halls by this massive creature, which appears to be the only threat in the station after the death of Entity B. At least, that's what the game wants us to believe. But there's one thing about Routine that's been crawling around in my head ever since I finished the game. What if Entity A wasn't alone? According to the station logs, the researchers only discovered two entities. Entity B, the one found dead after choking on an apple, and Entity A, the towering creature that stalks the halls during the second half of the game, slaughtering the engineer on sight. That's the official story. But I don't think that's the whole truth. And this is where things get weird. Back in my full story explained video, I mentioned how the relationship between the entities didn't feel romantic or reproductive. It felt more parental. Especially during those strange visions showing Entity B interacting with what looked like a child version of the entities. At the time, I assumed that was meant to explain where Entity A came from. But what if we were looking at it the wrong way? What if Entity B and Entity A weren't parent and child at all? What if they were mates? And the fetal-looking creature we see in those visions was actually a third entity. Let's call it Entity C. Now look, I'll admit it, I have absolutely zero hard proof for this. This is full tinfoil hat mode. That's why I left it out of the main breakdown, but hear me out. When the engineer leaves the ward and travels to the annex station, he has to physically exit through an airlock and cross the lunar surface. There's no hidden hallway, no teleportation, no secret tram system. And yet, once we reach the annex, the entity is also there. So how did it get from point A to point B without us ever seeing it? Because we know this thing can't phase through walls. If it could, it would have entered the autopsy room instead of violently clawing at the outside wall trying to reach Entity B's corpse. It can turn itself invisible, which would explain the not seeing part, but it would still need to travel alongside us that whole time. And it can't use the vents either. The vents are one of the only safe places in the game. If the creature could crawl through them, the player would never survive. So how does one creature somehow appear in multiple locations across separated lunar facilities, while we're actively traveling between them? One entity in two places. Or two entities. One waiting in the ward, one waiting in the annex, both mourning Entity B. And the more I think about it, the harder it is for me to dismiss. Because the game already tells us the alien fungal organism evolves over time. It mutates, it adapts, it grows larger and more intelligent. So why would the infection stop at only two completed entities? Why include visions of a mother and child? Why make it a point to mention that Entity B had female biological characteristics? The game wants us to think about reproduction, about lineage, about family. If Entity A and B are some twisted version of Adam and Eve, then maybe Entity C is Cain. And then there's the ending. Near the finale, the entity ambushes us again on the way to the canal, meaning somehow it traveled from the ward to the annex and then back to the ward again, all while following us through vacuum exposure, sealed security doors, and disconnected station sectors, without a single explanation. So either there were multiple entities moving independently across the station, or routine quietly expects us not to think too hard about how its monster actually moves. And honestly, either answer is terrifying, because if there really was a third entity hidden somewhere in that station, what's to say there isn't more? But maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe this is just the result of a small indie team not having the budget to show the creature physically moving between areas. Or maybe
I've got a theory, it could be Bonnie's.
there's still more hiding beneath the surface of routine than we realized. Tell me what you think down below, Night Stalkers. Was there really only one entity chasing us? Or were we being hunted by something the station logs never mentioned? From my dark corner of the web to yours, farewell, Night Stalkers. Until the next nightmare.